Nearly 40,000 people in the U.S. overdose each year. That number has been rising. Heroin epidemic, it's out there once again. It's cheap. People are using it. People are dying. There's a new idea for a treatment. It's raising some eyebrows and questions.
Heroin, one of the most dangerous drugs out there, has some saying the only way to kill the addiction is by making it legal. So-called clean heroin in a controlled setting could perhaps lessen its deadly grip, but many still believe a drug is just that, a drug, and that pharmaceutical heroin offers no reason whatsoever for those fighting the disease to give it up for good.
So we've talked about weaning people from heroin abuse or any narcotic abuse using drugs like methadone. This is a novel idea. I use the word novel and then it's new, not saying it's necessarily good from my perspective, but giving heroin to heroin addicts in a clinical environment
medically supervised.
Help either wean them off heroin or prevent them from dying in the streets. I just do not believe it's like taking an alcoholic and saying, oh, just come in and we'll just give you as many beers as you want, but we'll watch.
Here's the difference, though. Here's the difference. I think, and I see both sides too, Travis. This is a tough issue. I think what they're really saying is that heroin is very addictive, and a lot of people get sick, not just with the heroin overdosing, but also with the dirty needles, okay? And what they're saying is if we can give them clean heroin, we can possibly prevent a lot of the other kind of medical consequences that come from dirty needles. That being said, my issue is this. Okay, if we're giving people heroin that's clean, how do we ever get them off the heroin?
Well, that's the thing.
Right.
Even with methadone clinics, they're designed to just maintain your habit, keep you in a controlled environment so that you're not overdosing, and create more of a dependency instead of this crazy addiction. And so I think with the clean heroin, really what they're trying to do is say, I understand that heroin is one of the hardest things to beat. You can't beat it by yourself. You go through all of these types of withdrawal symptoms when you do. So here, come to the clinic. We'll give you a little bit of heroin each day and then gradually wean you down, and perhaps in a couple years you'll be off.
But Rachel, my problem with this is earlier this year, I went to Baltimore and I talked with a bunch of heroin addicts. And what they said is the heroin euphoria was so intense that they were constantly chasing that high. And to say, oh, you know, come out into the clinic and get your heroin, it's almost saying that you...
You're right, Travis. I agree with you. But this is a concept that is well documented in substance abuse literature and practice, known as harm reduction, with the principle that the ideal is abstinence, right? The reality might be something very different. And might it be safer, this is the theory, for someone who is addicted to something to use it in a controlled substance. So in other words, another analogy is if you're an alcoholic and you've gotten 3 DUIs or you're a danger to yourself or someone else driving while under the influence, don't go out and drink at home. That's kind of what this principle is.
But if I'm gonna wean an alcoholic off of alcohol, let's say it's in the emergency department or you send them home, you wean them off using a similar drug that you know, we know it's one of the anti-anxiety type of medicines. And it helps to wean them off. It helps prevent the complications because people can die from complications.
Really help them.
There's no end
them
point.
off more so as to just control their side effects of not having it.
But it helps wean them off so they don't develop delirium tremens and potentially die. And I think with heroin, it's the same idea. Like you can't, this is just my personal opinion, you can't give someone the very drug that you're trying to get them off because the addiction is so mental to me.
But maybe, maybe the issue we're all having here is this, that this is incomplete. So they're going this far and they're saying, let's put them in a lower amount of heroin in a controlled situation. The next half needs to be, how do we then get them off?
Right.
So maybe
that's the part we're all focused on, is how do you get them off?
That's the end point.
Instead of how do you help them live a healthy, happy existence.
It's a tough, you know, addiction is so very difficult, and that's why this topic is so controversial. There's no great answers.